What will happen to the lonely dragon race in this pirate world, amidst the scorching blood of the dragon race like magma, in an era of fierce competition among hundreds of boats? Top of the war. Give me face, this war ends here. Red-haired everyone made an imposing appearance. Do pirates still need someone to save face? The red dog let out a big flame. It's really scary, but we're still quite scary. Kai Duo, since you have occupied the kingdom of peace, let this disgusting country be destroyed with you. The creatures that only appear in mythology float above the land of peace, a combination of violence and beauty, such as Satan in hell, whose black scales and mist are clasped together, and bone spurs shimmer with coldness under the illumination of lightning. This is the Black Dragon. Nedhogg. Chapter 1. Memory Fusion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Darren Ilya was lying on the ground, but his face was very ugly, as if he was having a nightmare. He was sweating profusely and had a frightened expression on his face, but from time to time his expression would turn into an indifferent or ignorant expression. Change back and forth like a magic trick. His mind was in excruciating pain, as if countless needles had pierced through it. For a while, he was still Darren Ilya from the world of One Piece. In a moment, he will be the supreme and greatest existence of the Dragon Clan world. Nedhogg. After a while, he became Li Yun, an ordinary person in the ordinary world. 3 memories intertwined in his mind, almost causing his mind to explode. The last 3 memories began to collide and merge, and the memories began to disappear continuously. All 3 personalities have slowly disappeared, replaced by a brand new personality. At this moment, Darren Ilya's black dragon scales had disappeared from her body and she lay quietly unconscious on the ground. My face is as peaceful as a sleeping beauty under the sunlight. Not long after, Darren Elijah finally woke up. The brand new personality has the personality of Nedhogg, which is relatively indifferent, but also carries the anger of Darren Ilya and the unwillingness of Li Yun. But his memories disappeared again because he had too many memories during the fusion, so he involuntarily chose to delete these memories. Darren Ilya looked at her hands and then looked up at the world. He has a slight headache. To himself, he said, Am I Nedhogg? Am I Darren Ilya? Am I Li Yun? He suddenly felt a piercing pain in his head and said, Why would I say my name is Nedhogg? How could I say such things? Darren was somewhat puzzled, but he didn't know the reason. Part of his memory is the life of Darren Ilya in the world of One Piece, another part is the life of Li Yun from the ordinary world, and the last part is from the memory of Nedhogg. But because Nedhogg's memory was too large, his brain automatically deleted most of his memories about Nedhogg. Only a body of dragon blood was left boiling and surging in the blood, along with a name called Nedhogg and a body of combat skills. But I have already forgotten why it's called Nedhogg. Darren Ilya looked at this world with some fear, some anticipation, and even more hatred. Finally, he touched his head with his hand and said in a deep voice, Starting today, I am Darren Elijah, a brand new Darren Elijah. He showed a half-smile expression, lowered his head, first chuckled softly, and then burst out laughing. It's like celebrating his new life. This scene is like a painting. A child stands in the ruins, hands outstretched and laughing up in the sky. Darren Elijah was a bit weak in his body, after all, he had been heartbroken and crying for so long just now, and had walked so far before finally falling into a coma. If it weren't for the scorching dragon blood rushing and roaring inside him, perhaps he wouldn't have been able to stand up long ago. Darren Elijah sat in the same spot, watching his mother's tears streaming uncontrollably from the large pit beside him. Darren Ilya was already an adult mind at this time, knowing that his father was probably more or less unlucky, and his mother was like this again, so he identified all the culprits as the one he heard about Keto last night. Darren Ilya wiped away his tears and knocked his head heavily before starting to fill the big hole, making it his mother's grave. Darren Ilya worked hard for several hours and finally buried her mother. Looking at the large grave ahead, Darren sat in front of the grave and said, Mother, don't worry, I will take care of myself. I will keep your share of life. I will go find my father, and I will see the body if I die. I will make Kido pay for it with blood. The intense emotions stirred his golden pupils, which were as hot as flowing magma. Darren Ilya finished speaking and walked towards the direction his mother had taken him without hesitation. My father was over there yesterday. Walking to the place where the village defense team fought yesterday, Darren Ilya's last glimmer of luck was shattered. There are corpses everywhere, not a single living person. And the most prominent figure, which reached 4 meters high, was his father Figo Ilya. His father died, but he still maintained a fighting posture. His body was covered in scars left by the battle. Darren Ilya saw this scene and gritted his teeth, saying, Kido. They used to live well, but the arrival of Kaido shattered everything. Although he was awakened, he didn't thank Kaido at all because the cost was too heavy. Darren Elijah finally buried his father by his mother's side. Looking at the 2 graves, my heart feels like a knife twisting. Darren didn't continue to be so decadent because he had to go to Kido for revenge, so he had to exercise himself. This is a world where one person's power is enough to change everything. In his memory, Kido, decades later, was an immortal monster. His extraordinary talent, combined with the strongest animal fruits, forged his brilliance. But Darren Ilya didn't give up. He didn't think he would lose to Kido, all he needed was time. Time goes back to the present, and Darren Ilya sits on the bed. Just now he had that dream again, it was so real. It seems that he is the supreme, majestic, and powerful existence in that painting scroll. Darren Elijah slowly recited Nedhogg. Darren speculated that his dragon blood may have come from this black dragon. It is more likely that he himself is this black dragon. The ordinary young man Li Yun in his memory has read the book Dragon Clan. Knowing that Nedhogg is the black dragon, the ancestor of the dragon race. So he guessed that he must have some connection with Nedhogg. But he has no way to prove it now, he is preparing to join the Navy. Only by joining the Navy can he get the fastest improvement. In the Navy, as long as you perform well, you will receive the support and training of those big shots. He is only 6 years old, but his physical fitness is definitely at the monster level, and there will be a merchant ship arriving in 2 days. He is preparing to depart on that merchant ship. He has already dug up some gold bellies and other things to catch that merchant ship. After all, if someone doesn't allow this child to take a boat, then he can exchange these for the opportunity to take a boat. Of course, if others want to kill him and grab these things, he will make him regret it a lot. After all, he is not an ordinary child. All his plans have to wait for that ship to arrive. Chapter 2. Boarding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Derived sprinkled gentle sunshine over the ocean, making the blue and jewel-like sea emit a sparkling light. The gentle breeze blew over the sea, creating a wave in the vast and boundless ocean. Amidst the vast blue sea, which was capable of accommodating everything, waves of joy and laughter echoed as a huge merchant ship sailed towards the island from afar. A man on a merchant ship wearing a black cloth on his head, with hard muscles that couldn't even be covered by a loose training suit, looked through a telescope at the island the merchant ship was sailing towards. Turning his head with a solemn expression, he said to a simple and honest man with dark skin next to him, Kalen, go and ask Fissy to stop the ship and not get close to the island. The simple and honest man with dark skin looked at the burly man wearing a black headscarf, whose hard muscles couldn't even cover his loose clothes, and said seriously, Trier, be careful. After speaking, he ran towards the cabin without looking back. He knew that Trier must have found something, but out of trust in Trier, he didn't ask much, but without hesitation, he followed his orders. Trier smiled and looked at Quellen's figure without saying anything. His leg muscles tightened and he kicked hard, jumping directly from the observation deck onto the deck. Bang! Looking at the guards on the deck attracted by his movements, they smiled boldly and said, Kyle, Sulu, how many people do you want to take with me to the island to see? Kyle and Sulu were skilled sailors on the ship, sailing along the great routes of the caravan for over a decade, and also experienced countless good men on the sea. Upon hearing Trier's words, it was clear in their hearts that something unusual had happened to the island ahead. It was very likely that the island had been plundered by pirates. In the uncertainty of whether the pirates had left, they chose a few people to go to the island to investigate the situation. Kyle scratched his blonde hair with his fingers and turned his head in disappointment, muttering, "I thought I could rest well when I got to Quequint Island." Sulu smiled and replied with golden glasses, "You can rest well when you go to the island. As long as you are careful not to get your head cut off by the gang, after all, we may not be able to save you in time this time." Kyle pursed his lips, not arguing, but waving his hand meant he knew. 7 or 8 powerful men, wielding weapons one by one, cautiously landed on the shore of Cutinet Island. Trier waved to a skinny middle-aged man left on the boat, and the small boat silently headed towards the rocks not far from the coast. Trier clenched his hands on the pitch-black iron fists and said to the powerful man behind him, "Be careful, the quietness on this island is a bit excessive, there may be pirates." The powerful men behind him said nothing, each holding their weapons tightly and following Trier towards the village. The few people did not notice a pair of sharp eagle eyes staring at them in the sky. Darren Ilya in the dilapidated wooden house spoke with an indifferent expression, "Finally here." Subsequently, the indifferent expression turned into the determination shown by the child after experiencing hardships, as if the previous indifference had never appeared. Darren walked out of the dilapidated wooden house and headed towards the graves in the village. At this moment, a group of people in Trier were gritting their teeth as they looked at the damaged and dilapidated village. The warm villages of the past no longer exist, the noisy and vibrant villages remain silent, with carefully arranged and cozy small houses swaying in all directions. The houses are filled with smoke and dust, and the clean and tidy streets are filled with scars from the scorching fire. Trier watched this scene silently but helplessly, just sighed and walked forward, with a low voice coming in. "There's no time to grieve anymore. This is how this era is. Let's go see if there are any survivors." The little giant, who was as high as 4.5 meters, scratched his head, gritted his teeth, and cursed. "The locust-like pirates are really disgusting. If I had seen them, I would have pinched them to death." Sulu's smiling expression restrained, emitting a cold aura all over his body, and he said coldly, "A terrible world, sea debris." Kyle remained silent and followed Daryl forward. A burly middle-aged man in the team waved expressionlessly at them and followed Daryl's footsteps. "Instead of grieving here, it's better to go see if there are any survivors. The prosperous area of the village has been completely destroyed, leaving only a group of graves piled up in earthen mounds." The little giant, standing at a height of 4.5 meters, looked at the graves in the central area and turned to call out his companions. "Trier, Kyle, there's someone in the tomb group." Upon hearing Squite's words, Trier and his group immediately headed towards the graves. The warm sunshine covers the earth, and the blue sky presents the beauty of nature. However, on the ground, a thin and small child sits alone in front of the grave group, looking sadly at the grave in front of him. Trier walked forward, his sorrowful figure ignoring him, just staring motionless at the grave. Trier hugged his chest with both hands and accompanied him without saying a word. Sulu turned around and beckoned his companions to search elsewhere. The gentle and warm sun has turned into a blazing sun burning the earth, and 2 figures, one big and one small, remained silent under the tomb group. Trier understood that the child who had experienced such hardship at this moment needed to be quiet on their own. The small figure turned around and looked at the tall figure in front of her, with a resolute expression of gratitude on her face. "Thank you, uncle, for accompanying me." Trier patted his shoulder with a cold fist and encouraged him. "A person's life is like this boundless sea, sometimes turbulent, sometimes sunny, carrying the hope of this village and living well." The small figure stared into Trier's eyes, full of seriousness, and spoke word by word. "Don't worry, I, Darren Ilya, will definitely carry their share and live a good life. One day, my reputation will spread all over the world, making my father, mother, uncle, aunt and others proud of me in the sky. Trier touched his head and laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, then Ilya, you must work hard. Let's go, come with us. Darren Ilya nodded. Trier walked towards the coast, and Sulu followed with a little girl in his arms. Kyle scratched his head and followed behind without saying a word. The little giant, standing at 4.5 meters tall, followed closely behind with a child in one hand, while several others also held several children in their arms and followed behind. After arranging several children, Trier looked at Darren Ilya, a unique child, and asked about his destination. Ilya, where are you going next? If you don't have a place to go, follow us. Ilya declined Trier's kindness. Uncle Trier, thank you, but I want to go to the naval base. Trier looked at Ilya with unease and said. If you're from the Yuri Atom Navy, you're still too young, otherwise you'll have to grow up before going. Ilya shook her head and explained the reason. Don't worry, Uncle Trier. I'm because there's an uncle in the Navy there, and I'm not in a hurry for revenge. I wouldn't go and die. Chapter 3. Growth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A group of children on the bustling dock waved goodbye to the burly man on a huge wooden merchant ship. Thank you for taking care of Uncle Trier these days. Sulu, I will miss you. Brother Squite, remember to come to me if you want to become a navy in the future. Goodbye, Brother Kyle, make sure to remember me. Shimira, you need to live a good life. Except for a few children who chose to follow Trier to orphanages on other islands, all of Darren Ilya's children are here. They want to follow Darren Ilya to the naval base, receive the most systematic training, and seek revenge against the pirates in the future. A group of children walked towards the interior of the island. Trier breathed a sigh of relief as he watched the dock shrink and stand at the bow of the ship. Kyle asked in confusion. Boss, you're not afraid of these kids getting into trouble? Sulu's eyes were shining with the light of the sun, and he said disdainfully. The boss has already thought of all the questions you can think of. The boss has already contacted the lieutenant at the naval base to pick them up. If anyone takes action, the Navy will make some pocket money. Kyle suddenly realized and slapped Sulu hard. I didn't expect it to be like this, but you're still really smart. It's just that you're a bit foolish. You hurt my heart so much. Then you go to hell. Darren Ilya and a group of children didn't walk far when they met several navies approaching. The burly middle-aged man, led by them, sighed as he looked at the hatred in their eyes that could not be hidden, and a hint of a smile appeared on their ferocious faces. Children, come with me. I'm Navy Lieutenant Cook, you can call me Uncle Cook. Uncle Cook, please. Thank you very much, Uncle Cook. Uncle Cook looks so burly, he can definitely defeat those sea scum. Ilya, a group of small and talkative people, thanked Captain Cook and sighed. Captain Cook walked ahead with a cheerful smile. Let's go, you guys rest here for a few days, and we'll go to Lion Island together when the warships come from behind. The waves swirled forward freely on the sea surface, until they were separated by the collision of a giant ship in a shadow. A group of children on the deck of the warship are sweating profusely as they start exercising. Two of them are the most prominent. One is a white and pure little boy with dazzling golden hair and a body full of sadness, and the other is Ilya, who is wearing black clothes with an expressionless face and carrying a huge load. Their training intensity is in sharp contrast to the child next to them. They are too terrifying. Ilya really has the ability to repair like a monster. Since boarding the ship, she has been exercising all along except for eating and sleeping. Costa is truly someone who ate the fruits of the animal series, ancient species, and imperial crocodiles. His physique is simply not what he should have at this age. It's really terrifying. The persistence of these children really makes me blush. I instantly feel like I'm not as good as the children. I found quite a few good seedlings this time. The Navy will become even stronger in the future. One navy after another stood together discussing these children. This is the foundation of the strength of the Navy. Good seedlings with a sense of justice have gathered together to form the Navy, allowing the Navy to endure the changes of time in this sea. The change of the pirate hegemon still stands firm. This is the worship of the great route Liant Island Naval Base, and a group of children like Elia and others who want to join the Navy for various reasons are heading to the Liant Island Naval Base together. In the future, they will receive basic training at the Liant Island Naval Base, select talented individuals who will be sent to the Navy headquarters for training at a certain age, and another portion will join the Liant Island Naval Base to inject new blood into it. A naval warship is battling two pirate ships in the turbulent sea. Roaming and rumbling, kill these pirates. Let these pirates see our strength. Go to hell, Navy. Don't underestimate me, pirate. A muscular figure with dazzling golden hair like the sun loosened the collar of his Navy uniform. What a disgusting group of sea locusts. Ilya will take care of them first. Next to her was Ilya, who had rolled up her Navy sleeves and revealed her muscular body as hard as a rock. Costa, hurry up. Allowing them to live an extra second would feel like an insult to the world, and it would be irresponsible towards the beautiful world. Costa smiled, his eyes turning into golden pupils, his whole body covered in thick scales, his body becoming even more robust, his hands turning into thick claws, and behind him a crocodile tail swaying like a siege hammer, protruding a mouthful of heat, as if it were a killing weapon on the battlefield. Then I went up. King Costa grabbed the blade of a pirate who had attacked the Navy with one hand and showed him a fierce smile, while his big hand covered the pirate's head. The pirate fell limp and powerless, without breathing. Costa spoke to Hagrid, who was still trembling with fear. This is the battlefield, be careful, Hagrid. Costa rushed towards the pirate like a tyrannosaurus, and laughter spread throughout the pirate ship. Haha, scumbags, come on. Several pirates wanted to ambush the crocodile tail behind him, which was like a siege hammer. With a flick of its tail, several people suddenly had their eyes protruding and were hit by the pirate captain, spitting blood from their mouths. Bang brushed the pirate captain had just cleaved the pirate, and Costa in front of him was nowhere to be seen. The pitch-black shadow enveloped the pirate captain, and his deep voice was like a deadly sickle. Are you looking for me? The pirate captain's eyes were wide open, his muscles tense all over his body, and he was about to pounce forward with a strong kick from his feet. However, a sharp claw was faster than him, piercing 5 large holes in his abdomen that were clear in front and back. Pushy Costa shook his hand and threw his blood and body directly into the sea. At this moment, the battle on the pirate ship had already ended, and a figure was sitting on the pile of pirate corpses, steaming hot all over. Its golden pupils were shining like fiery magma, looking at Costa and grinning at him. You lost again, Costa. Costa's face collapsed as he watched the scene before him, instantly transforming into the man with dazzling golden hair like the sun. You're really fast enough. Ilya smiled and said, looking at the distant cloud with a hint of meaning. Prepare, the tide of the times is coming, this is our best opportunity. Costa hesitated for a moment, then remembered something and asked, staring closely at Ilya. Is it because of that? Ilya nodded to indicate default. Chapter 4. Killing and Not Killing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In March 1490, a major event shook the entire sea in the Hyuan calendar. The youngest general in history, known as the unskilled General Zepha's family, was avenged and killed by pirates. Countless pirates celebrated for this, and countless people felt frightened and fearful. The Navy and the world government took tough measures to eliminate a large number of ambitious individuals and pirates who wanted to take action at this time. In a corner of the world, it was heard that the pirates who had killed the Zepha family were charging towards the peaceful village. Tumble pirates recklessly attacked the originally quiet village, laughing as they looked at the destroyed village in front of them. Even General Zifa's relatives have been killed, what are we afraid of? You pirates must die hard. A simple man rushed towards the pirate with a kitchen knife and roared angrily. Bayu Ping, the man fell into a pool of blood, his eyes fixed on the pirate but powerless. The gunman pouted and kicked the man's body away, disdainful. Naha, I have to die hard. I don't know, but you must die hard. Yaha, Zolian, you're too cruel, aren't you? Cut, why don't you just say, me? You're the cruelest one, I'm helping him out. Seeing that his friend beside him had not replied, Zolian turned around and murmured weakly. Rear Admiral Stephen. Are you joking? In the distance, a warship was approaching a pirate ship, and a figure stepped on the air and headed straight towards the island. Brush, a huge sword energy instantly split the pirate ship in half. Roars come before people. Go to hell, pirate. Run, whoever loves this monster will come, my little life can't be lost here. Captain, what should we do? What about the captain? Come on, what's scary about him is that he's also human. Your family can cut off a pirate ship with one blow. The pirates were panicked, some were running away, some were holding weapons ready to fight against the naval brigadier general, some were giving up their weapons to resist, and some were having a final carnival before they died. A refined figure in a suit in a dark basement asked the black-clad swordsman in front of him. Why? Don't think that the world government doesn't know about your small actions. The elegant figure gave a bitter smile, then pulled out a gun and prepared to shoot, but was cut off by the black-clad swordsman. At the first moment after the Zifa family was killed, an order was issued between the power of the towering peak of the Red Earth continent, the Holy Land of Maria. Thoroughly investigating the two characters has resulted in the cleansing of countless government officials, pirates, and nobles who have had conflicts with Zifa. In just 1 month, the incident of General Zifa's family being murdered was brought before Zifa by the world government, and the murderer was directly dealt with by the world government using the most ruthless means. Zifa also had a slight waver in his belief in not killing because of this incident, so he chose to resign. However, due to the persuasion of Marshal Kong and his friends, General Xiancher of the Warring States period, and naval hero Kapu, he chose to retain the rank of general to train future talents for the Navy. This plan is an elite naval training camp that brings together talented individuals from the Navy with unprecedented manpower and resources for cultivation, allowing their potential to be fully unleashed. The world government has provided the greatest support for this plan, just to retain Zifa, one of the strongest naval forces. June, the 4 seas and the Great Route, one by one, sailed towards the headquarters of the Navy, Marinfando, like birds returning to their nests. This is a good opportunity for the Navy to receive training from General Zifa at the headquarters of the Navy in the 4 seas and the Great Route. The Navy attaches great importance to this operation, and the 7 routes of the Great Route and the 4 seas are accompanied by rear admirals to prevent those ferocious pirates from trying to strangle the new generation of the Navy. A major general from the headquarters was patrolling the seas and Great Routes at this time, and the pirates who dared to take the lead at this time were given the harshest blow. In a vast sea area of the New World, the Golden Buddha confronts a man with a crescent-shaped white beard. Warring States period, don't worry, I won't do such boring things. Newgate, that's not for sure. Kololala, who do you think I am during the Warring States period? I have a white beard. White bearded hands shimmered with white light, and he swung his fist forward with force. Click, 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 collapsed. The Golden Buddha's palm swung forward, causing a huge shockwave to collide with a shockwave. Bang. In another sea area, Kapu threw a huge shell forward. Bone fist. Meteorite, brush. The bomb was cut open by several sword energies. Pang, ha ha ha, Roger, stop running. Kapu is here, everyone run quickly, ha ha ha. Roger, don't run. I will definitely catch you, ha ha ha. Don't think about it, Cap. At the same time, Auntie, Kaido, Wang Ji, Lade, John, Big Wine Barrel and other great pirates were all under surveillance to prevent them from attacking the new generation of the Navy. A warship arrived at the naval headquarters of Marinfando, and Ilya on board looked at the majestic naval fortress in front of her, thinking to herself. This is my first step towards the times. I will do my best to develop into like-minded partners, such as Sikorsky, Polyusolino, Doberman, Ghost Spider, Flying Squirrel, and Fire Mountain. The green pheasant has no need for development, and his values are completely incompatible with mine. He is too far in pursuing his ideas but forgets to put them into practice through action. Moreover, a navy with incompatible ideas is a good navy. Now the older generation of Zhongzi Fa has begun to transform into accessible ones. In the Warring States period, they were lifelong friends with Kapu, and there is no convincing possibility between them. They can only try their best to develop a new generation of navy and look at the older generation of generals whose behavior has appeared in the original work. With my and Costa's talents, we will soon be able to stand out in the navy, so the next step of preparation should also begin. All naval elite candidates gathered at the massive training ground in Marinfando. Time passes little by little, from the rising sun to the rising jade rabbit. Some people start making friends and expanding their network, some start practicing without saying a word, and some scan the candidates worth paying attention to in the coming years. Ilya used the power of words and kings to increase her own burden and exercise herself, without caring about what happened around her. A low voice came from Ilya's front. "Excuse me for bothering you, is this your ability?" Ilya stopped her push-ups and stood up straight, looking at the figure in front of her. He was wearing a white naval cap, with red short sleeves open, revealing solid muscles and a rose pattern on his chest, and carrying a famous sword behind him. Ilya's heart was clear, and she smiled gently as she reached out her hand to the burly figure in front of her. "Hello, my name is Darren Ilya." "That's right, this is my ability. My ability can increase the weight of the whole body to achieve better exercise results. Do you want to give it a try?" The burly figure in front of him hesitated as he looked at Darren Ilya's outstretched hand, but still chose to shake hands with Darren Ilya. "Hello, my name is Sikorsky. If you don't mind, I'd like to give it a try." Chapter 5. Elite Training Camp 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. One of the three great generals of Sikorsky's future naval headquarters, he is a man who upholds complete justice and is not soft on pirates. He is Darren Ilya's desire to develop into a like-minded partner in the elite training camp. Darren Ilya nodded and explained. "Be careful, my monarchy is aimed at every cell in the body, and your organs will also be compressed. If your organs have not been exercised, you will feel a bit uncomfortable. Let me double my monarchy first and you can feel it." Sakas nodded to indicate that he knew. Darren Ilya's eyes were both red and golden. Yenling royal power, the heavy pressure fell from the sky, and Sikorsky was instantly overwhelmed by it, causing him to stumble. Sikorsky stabilized his body, pulled out his sword from behind, and waved it a few times, revealing a surprised expression. Sikorsky's physical training and enhancement speed has become very slow, and every time he wants to break the limit, it takes a lot of time. However, the power of the Spirit King can directly help him shorten this process and exercise his weak internal organs, which can help him accelerate the speed of strengthening. Sikorsky just saw Darren Ilya getting wet with sweat while doing simple push-ups, so he guessed that this was an ability to help him exercise. In order to gain stronger strength and eliminate the pirate, Sikorsky chose to inquire, but he didn't expect the effect of this exercise to be so good. Darren Ilya looked at Sikorsky's surprised expression and understood what he was thinking. Darren Ilya smiled like a warm sun. "How's it going, isn't it good?" A smile appeared on Sikorsky's cold face and he nodded. "Your abilities are very convenient, can we exercise together in the future?" "Of course it's possible. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Darren Ilya and I'm from the Great Route Liant Island Naval Base. My goal is to become a naval general and eliminate disgusting pirates. My name is Sikorsky and I come from the North Sea on the island of Ivory Coast. My goal is to eliminate all the pirates. Sakaski's eyes lit up for a moment, and his deep voice became much lighter. Sakaski was once harmed by pirates, and his family died because of them. Therefore, Sakaski believed that the misfortunes in the world were brought about by pirates, and in order to prevent more people from encountering misfortunes like him, it was necessary to completely eliminate all pirates. A helpless voice came from the side. And me, my name is Costa and I come from the naval base on the Great Route of Main Island. My goal is to become the next Steel Bone Air Marshal. Darren Ilya felt embarrassed and touched her head. Ha ha ha, I'm sorry, Costa. Sakaski, this is my close friend Costa. Sakaski nodded at Costa. Bang 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 bang. Figures dressed in righteous cloaks descended from the sky one after another, with a middle-aged man wearing a purple suit and thick purple hair at the forefront. The middle-aged man looked at the energetic figure in front of him and shouted expressionlessly. Some of you have disappointed me. Elite training camps are designed to cultivate the strongest navy to eliminate evil and ruthless pirates, not to make a living. However, some of you are chatting as comfortably as at a ball held by the nobility. There is also a group of you who stay in place and rest in peace. I don't know if you should praise your composure or your sluggishness. You need to learn to take measures tailored to the situation, rather than someone to say it. You are the Navy, and the Navy is designed to eliminate pirates and protect the peace of the sea. To protect the peace of the sea, you need to have strong strength, and you should learn from those who insist on self-training. My physique doesn't come with the wind, it's a result of blood and sweat. Now everyone's going to run around Malinfan for an extra half night. A tall figure, 3 meters tall, with long hair, wearing a white hat with navy icons, wearing sunglasses on his face, wearing a yellow shirt outside and a white T-shirt inside, murmured softly. His body emitted a dazzling light that was about to turn into a golden glow and disappear in front of everyone. It's so scary. Brush General Zifa appeared in front of the golden light in an instant, his purple-black armed aura wrapped around his fist and punched the golden light. Bang! Polyasalino's figure appeared in the square, but now he looked a bit embarrassed. General Zifa stood in front of Polyasalino with his arms around his chest and spoke loudly. Do not use fruits, rely on your own physical strength to run, don't think about being lazy, no one on the battlefield will give you the opportunity to be lazy. Darren Ilya looked at the future naval headquarters general, the yellow ape Polyasalino, and did not speak, only understanding why Zifa did not deal with him. General Zifa hoped that they would exercise themselves and reflect on their behavior while running, but Polyasalino directly dismantled Teacher Zifa's platform and made a mockery. However, he was instantly taught to be a good person by General Zifa, which happened to be a warning to others. Sakaski ran out without saying a word, followed closely by Darren Ilya and Costa, while the other naval elites followed in their footsteps one by one. Circle after circle, Sakaski, Darren Ilya, and Costa always maintained the highway, but their bodies were sweating profusely. Polyasalino beside him said slowly. It's so scary, there are so many monsters. My name is Polyasalino, what are your names? Sakaski looked ahead without saying a word. Costa gave him a bold smile. My name is Costa, don't be joking. You are the biggest monster when it comes to other people's monsters, right? Polyasalino scratched his head and spread his hands, pretending to be weak. Look up at me, I'm very weak. Darren Ilya saw a hint of smile on Polyasalino's resolute expression. Being punched by General Zifa and still bouncing around without any problem, isn't that a monster? Hello, my name is Darren Ilya. Polyasalino spoke slowly. It's so scary, one by one. Sakaski's voice was as piercing as ice. Polyasalino, you still talk so much. Polyasalino watched as Sakaski opened his mouth and pressed down with both hands, speaking slowly. Oh, Sakaski, it's too cold for you. At least we came from the same place. Shut up. Sikorsky, you're so scary. Polyusilino. Sikorsky gritted his teeth in a low growl. It's so scary, just shut up. Polyusilino pulled his hand in front of his mouth, indicating that he had shut up. Sikorsky looked at Polyusilino and didn't speak, he just accelerated his speed and ran forward. Chapter 6. Elite Training Camp 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zifa held his chest in both hands and silently nodded as he looked at the most prominent figures, Sikorsky, Polyusilino, Costa, and Ilya. Zifa, seems that your reputation is really great. When you heard that you were going to establish a naval elite training camp and serve as the chief instructor, the rare monsters in the past all rushed out one by one. Next to Zifa, a major general dressed in Tang Dynasty attire and a navy coat joked. Hong Fan, don't tease me anymore. This just shows that they have a heart that wants to protect the sea. Isn't that why our navy is gathered together? Yes, although there are many good talents in the navy, I am still worried that no one in our generation of navy will be able to take over the flags of you, Kappa, and the warring states in 100 years. I didn't expect that as soon as you became the chief instructor of the navy and founded the Navy Elite Training Camp, for monsters popped up. It is estimated that such monsters will pop up again in the future. Zifa, you are really a lucky star in our navy. Looking at them too, I feel like I have seen the navy at its peak in the future, Marshal Steel-Boned Heir, the Warring States period, Kapu, I, and your old brothers, along with the new generation of them. At that time, we can better deter pirates and protect the people. Yeah, at that time we could work hard to make people's lives happier and better. Zifa, you can't hide anything, you need to educate them well. Don't worry, I will definitely educate them well and give them an unforgettable memory. Zifa showed a meaningful smile. Ilya's ability looks good, it can help exercise the body. Hong Fan looked at several figures in front, sweating profusely, as if they had just been caught in the water, and spoke up. Yes, it's really good fruit ability. Although Zifa believes that physical fitness is the most important, he does not deny the benefits that a powerful fruit can bring. Most of the pirates who act recklessly on the sea now are demon fruit powerhouses, and they achieve mutual success with the fruit. Like the golden lion Shurji, the floating fruit gives him the ability to move for a long time and on a large scale, making it difficult for the navy to track his whereabouts. Even if he cannot fight, he can still run away, which makes the navy feel nauseous. Everyone returned to the training camp dormitory to rest, and your names are posted at the entrance of the dormitory. Ilya, come with me. A major stood on the training ground, watching the young sailors sweating profusely, shouting loudly. Sweating figures breathed a deep sigh of relief as if they had heard the sound of heaven upon hearing these words. Derived is still half hidden between the sea and clouds, refusing to come out. At this time, several people have already started training on the training ground. 1, 2, 3, 4. Accompanied by the most basic push-ups performed by Mo Shu Ilya, sweat accumulated into a small puddle under her body, and her muscles trembled throughout her body, but Ilya continued to do the push-ups as if she didn't feel it. Brush on the side, Sikorsky stared at the sun, facing the sea, and swung every sword with all his might. Sweat had already soaked his clothes. Costa kept punching into the air, but his violent voice was limited to the three of them and did not spread outward. Speech and silence create a vacuum around them to isolate sound. Upon hearing this ability for the first time, Sikorsky couldn't help but sigh. Ilya, your abilities are really useful. Several navies walked to the training ground and couldn't help but look at each other as Ilya, who was training enthusiastically in front of them. A navy with a face full of pirate-like flesh and more than a navy-like appearance spoke up. It's too early here, isn't it? The eyes of another elegant navy officer with long black hair tied in a ponytail flashed with brilliance. Look at the sweat under their bodies. They should have been training here for a long time, and only those with demon fruit abilities can make their training silent. Devil fruit abilities. A pair of twin sailors exclaimed in surprise. The secret treasure of the sea, the cheapest demon fruit requires at least 100 million Baileys. The red-haired navy, biting a cigar, sighed. These are the monsters from yesterday. The skinny navy wearing a white baseball cap and a navy uniform spoke up. A powerful physique, mysterious demonic fruits, resilient willpower, and extreme self-discipline are truly terrifying monsters. A naval colonel stared at Ilya from a distance and spoke with deep emotion. The destinies of people in the world of pirates are completely different. Those monsters only need a very short time to grow through exercise, while ordinary people spend several times and 10 times their hard work and sweat to compete with them. Like Aunt Charlotte Lingling, she can be called the ceiling of Shanghai Thief's talent. At the age of 6 or 7, she is enough to destroy giant village. Exaggerated talent is hailed as the strongest shield or spear that can become a naval admiral or CP0 with just a little cultivation. How many people can't compare to decades of daily exercise? The colonel was fortunate that these monsters chose to become sailors instead of pirates, otherwise the navy would have had more troubles to deal with. The navies who arrived at the training ground one by one were deeply moved. It's really scary, getting up so early to exercise. Policerino wore sunglasses and a yellow shirt, speaking slowly. I just put in more sweat than others and obtained a good demon fruit, I can't be considered a monster. Ilya stood up and wiped the sweat from her head, explaining gently. Policerino pursed his lips to indicate that he didn't believe it, but he didn't say much. Are you joking? Is this something that can be achieved with more sweat? The navy, with a face full of pirate-like flesh and more than navy-like features, spoke in surprise. Ilya turned her head and explained to him. Hello, I'm Darren Ilya. I'm a fruit expert from the animal species lizard fruit phantom, black dragon fruit. My abilities can help me exercise my whole body, which is why I grow faster. Do you want to give it a try? The navy, with a face full of pirate-like flesh and more than navy-like features, scratched their heads and didn't expect Ilya to be so gentle. Hello, my name is Mike. Let me feel your abilities. Ilya nodded to signal that Mike was ready, and her eyes closed, transforming from pitch black to red golden pupils that seemed to be flowing with hot magma. A majestic force spreads outwards from Ilya as the center. Are you joking? Has the control over the devil fruit reached this level? The knowledgeable navy spoke up. This kind of pressure makes me afraid to take action against him. A swordsman gritted his teeth to resist the pressure and spoke with a face full of unwillingness. It's really scary. Policerino spoke in a slow and gentle tone, unresponsive as a gentle breeze brushing his face. He is indeed a strong opponent. Sakaski thought to himself. I've seen it many times and I feel like this fruit is simply too domineering. Costa sighed. Chapter 7. Elite Training Camp 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Carmen felt that Ilya on the other side had transformed into a dragon that was indescribable, with spines protruding and black scales all over his body, and wings capable of blocking the sun. The dragon was staring at him, and the majesty emanating from its golden pupils seemed to transform into a heavy hammer striking his soul. A force of gravity descended from the sky, covering every corner of his body. Even the lightest double of royal power made his organs feel a bit uncomfortable. Carmen waved his hand a few times, feeling the pulling force of his whole body under the monarchy. The simple movements made him expend more strength than before. Carmen felt the pressure all over his body, and a hint of grimace appeared on his face, which was full of flesh. He felt a faster way to become stronger. Carmen said incredulously. This is 1/10 faster than the speed at which I originally broke through my limits during exercise, and it can also exercise my internal organs. Ilya nodded in agreement with Carmen's statement. That's right, breaking through our physical limits will only become more and more difficult each time. My ability can help everyone break through their limits more quickly and exercise their organs more effectively. Upon hearing Elia's statement, the entire elite training camp exploded. Even those who come to the elite training camp cannot compare to Ilya and many people on the same island, they are still at the monster level of physique. They need to spend a lot of time doing basic exercise every day just to push themselves beyond their limits, and breaking through the limit once is more difficult than breaking through it once, spending more time, which makes breaking through the limit even more difficult. After reaching a certain age, there is no possibility of breaking through the limit. Therefore, the more limits they can break through in their physical fitness when they are young, the brighter their future will be. Of course, this is not absolute, just like all roads lead to Rome, some people just stand in Rome. Monsters like Aunt Charlotte Lingling, Kaido, Cap, Kong, Ryder, and others who break through their limits, may bring about improvements that others can only achieve after breaking through many times. This is why they are called monsters. Their powerful physique and terrifying growth after exercise far exceed that of ordinary people have made them feel hopeless. Ilya's ability can help them break through their limits more quickly and also exercise their internal organs to achieve two goals with one stone, which is rare. After all, everyone's physique is different, and targeted stress training can achieve the maximum effect. After all, people's recovery ability is different. Some people may accumulate hidden injuries in the sea if they exercise carelessly, which can explode to a certain extent. Improper exercise can damage themselves. There is almost no way to achieve visceral exercise, only a few fruits can help exercise the organs, and strong organs can help them have more physical strength. Terrifying abilities. This ability is simply too convenient. Fortunately, he is in the Navy. Now I can become stronger and avenge my family. In the future, I will definitely have the power to eliminate pirates. Ilya is really a gentle person. Joining the Navy elite training camp is indeed right. This is the place that helps me become stronger. Brush Zifa appeared in front of everyone, with naval officers dressed in righteous coats behind them. Zifa looked at the noisy crowd and expressed understanding. Yesterday, he came to Ilya because of his ability issues and wanted to use his abilities to help train these navies. Silence! A naval lieutenant with a big back roared loudly. The navy on the training ground stared at Zifa one by one without speaking. After all, most of those who dared to act recklessly in front of naval generals were brainless, and not many of the navies who came here were brainless. Zifa scanned them with a majestic gaze, and his loud voice echoed throughout the training ground. The Navy Elite Training Camp is designed to cultivate the most elite Navy. Your physical fitness and talents here meet the standards, but don't be proud. You may be one of the best in the original naval base, but not necessarily here. I hope you can supervise each other and make progress together. The Navy Elite Training Camp can be divided into two types based on their learning status. Navy 6 Style Learning and Dominance Learning. Dominance can be divided into Armed Color Domineering, Invisible Color Domineering, and Domineering Color Domineering. Domineering Color Domineering is innate, so what we need to learn is Armed Color Domineering and Visible Color Domineering. Dominance exists within every human body, but it requires appropriate guidance. Armed Color Dominance can capture the physical entities of natural color abilities for attacks. Seeing and hearing color dominance can make one's 5 senses become more sensitive, and can detect the breath and emotional changes of surrounding creatures. It can also be used to predict and avoid danger. Perhaps some of you have awakened the aura of seeing and hearing color dominance or armed color dominance, but the stronger your physique, the stronger the armed color dominance, and the same goes for seeing and hearing color dominance. The specific method will only be handed over to you after you master the 6 styles. Don't be too ambitious now, learn the Navy's 6 styles well. Now we are starting to learn the Navy's 6 styles. The Navy's 6 styles are a fundamental skill that has been honed and refined in the Navy. Learning the Navy's 6 styles well has the power to fight against general fruit abilities. After mastering the Navy's 6 styles, one can extend and develop their own combat habits or fruit abilities. The ultimate skill of the Navy's 6 styles, Life Return, can store energy and explode when needed, and even change your form. It is an extremely practical skill. The Navy's Type 6 involves continuously stepping on the ground at high speed for dozens of times in an instant, 0.36 seconds, to generate explosive reaction forces for high-speed movement, making it seem like disappearing from the enemy's eyes. Let me demonstrate it to you once. Brush Zifa instantly disappeared in front of the training ground, and his voice came from behind. Of course, seeing and hearing the aura of color dominance can capture the action of shaving, but this does not mean that shaving is useless. As long as the body is strong enough, even if it captures your action, the other party cannot resist because their own body cannot keep up with their consciousness. Next is the iron block, which boosts its strength through rigorous physical exercise, giving it the hardness of iron. It cannot even be pierced by bullets or swords. Come, Ilya, Sakaski, Porosalino, Costa, and launch attacks like me. Without hesitation, Ilya clenched her fists and headed toward Zifa like a magnificent sun, carrying the momentum of destroying all things. Sakaski pulled out his famous sword from behind and held it with both hands. The fierce thunder and fire stones slashed mercilessly toward Zifa's chest. Polyasalino pursed his lips, his legs emitting a dazzling golden light, and the light speed kicked Xiang Zifa from behind without hesitation. Costa clenched his hands and lifted his head unstoppably, smashing it toward Zifa's head like a landslide. Bang King Peng, the powerful attack of 4 people filled the entire training ground with smoke. Chapter 8. Teaching. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The smoke and dust dissipated, and Zifa firmly accepted the injuries of the 4 of them without any harm and continued to teach the others. Iron blocks can help you defend against other people's attacks, but of course, iron blocks are not omnipotent. You need to judge whether you can continue with such damage. I do not recommend doing so without a certain degree of certainty. It is best not to do so when facing fruit abilities. If you are not aware of the demon fruit ability you are facing, you may accidentally capsize. Iron blocks may have the disadvantage of being unable to move when unable to control themselves freely. However, when controlling oneself freely, iron blocks can be used while moving. Iron blocks can be used in combination with armed colors to form multiple layers of defense. Watching Zifa explode unscathed in the elite training camp. What a terrifying move. This move is too cool. Although I know about the Navy's Type 6, it is far from the shock that comes from intuitive perception. I must master the Navy's Type 6. How should I combine my demon fruit? How to combine swordsmanship and body movements. Navy elites listened to General Zifa's continued explanation and demonstration with their own different ideas. Paper painting, removing all body strength, can make the body become as light and thin as paper through the airflow changes generated by the opponent's movements, and can easily and freely control the body. When attacking towards oneself, one can dodge it in a tight line. This move can be used in conjunction with seeing, hearing, and regaining life. Sakaski attacks me. Sakaski's sharp swordsmanship, wielding both hands, seemed to kill people with every move. Zifa leisurely dodged attacks amidst the fierce swordsmanship, like a butterfly swayed by a gentle breeze, seemingly perilous but unscathed. This is paper painting, a life-saving tactic in the face of a surprise attack. It's easy to get into trouble by using iron blocks to resist. After all, you don't understand the opponent's methods, but paper painting can dodge attacks and quickly counterattack. Alright, Sakaski, stop it. Moon step, using strong foot force to step on the air, generates strong hovering power, can walk in the air like stepping on stairs, but cannot stay in the air for too long. As long as you use this high-altitude movement technique, you can launch attacks from enemy blind spots in the air. This is one of the few techniques that can be used for space combat. As long as you are physically strong enough, you can stay in the air for a long time to engage in combat. In this vast and boundless era of the ocean, it can help us fight better. Paired with Lanjiao, it can create a suppressive effect on pirates. Paintbrush Zifa stood tall in the air, his calves tightly intertwined like steel bars, kicking into the sky with a huge vacuum slash. This is similar to Jinhao's slashing. He truly deserves to be General Zifa. The physical arts of this era are indeed very good. Wow, that's too strong. This is a combination of Lanjiao and Yuebu. Lanjiao rolls up a powerful kick at ultra-high speed to create a vacuum and strike the opponent, easily splitting the target in half. Finally, there is the technique that claims to have the power to shoot bullets, known as the finger gun. Concentrate all your strength on your index finger and use your hardened finger to emit a shot between sparks and stones. Your fingertips have the attacking power of bullets, making it easy to penetrate the human body. Ilya, you can try the power of this move. Ilya watched Zifa, who was staring at him, with his left and right arms slightly bent and extended, tightly against his belly, palms facing upwards, while bending his left and right arms and standing close to his chest to defend. Zifa's finger rushed towards him at the speed at which Ilya could only see a blurry shadow. Ilya's left hand wanted to tap open Zifa's finger, but it was instantly bounced away as if hit by a shell, causing her hand to tremble slightly. Ilya knew that Zifa's gun was definitely at a loss, otherwise she might have poked him through a large, transparent hole. The Navy's Type 6 is like this, but everyone's power varies greatly, and the key lies in the strength of their physique. Now I will give you a specific explanation of the practice techniques of the Navy's 6 styles. The technique of shaving involves determining the strength of the legs and the direction of movement. 3 months later King a dragon claw covered in pitch black, like a black hole, was enough to make people's eyes sink into scales to block Sakaski's Kazumi no Kami. Not bad, Sakaski. I almost didn't react to your shaving. You have made rapid progress this month. Give it your all, Sakaski. Don't keep your hands. For both Ilya and Sakaski, giving their all is the greatest respect for each other. The training ground is undergoing a duel between monsters and warriors, as recited by poets in the history of poetry. The firstborn dragon horn exudes a substantial majesty in its crimson golden pupils that are as dazzling as magma. The pitch-black scales seem to represent death and despair, and behind it, a pair of huge wings block the sky and the sun. Its towering 6-meter-tall body is covered in scorching mist. Darren Ilya's black dragon fruit dragon form. Sakaski was wearing a red shirt and a navy hat, holding onto the spring guard with both hands. His face was as resolute as a brave warrior in poetry. Collapse both sides disappeared in front of everyone and then appeared above the training ground. Without hesitation, their dragon claws and swords swung towards each other's weak position. The two sides were not fighting, but in a life and death struggle. King Brushping Ilya transformed into a killing machine, with dragon horns, wings, claws, tails, and elbows constantly moving towards weak areas such as Sakaski's head, heart, and abdomen. Sakaski's facial expression showed that with each wave of his hand, Izumi Kainchij was more ferocious than before, relentlessly slashing towards Ilya with deadly and fierce moves. Ilya, your monster power has increased again. Sakaski, are you making great progress? The Navy's Type 6 has improved its ability to engage in mobile warfare. Ha ha ha, yes, don't let water go, Ilya. How could it be, Sakaski? The pain of the world is all due to the mundane thoughts of breaking away from dust. Ilya Dragon Claw China shimmered with blazing flames and raging lightning. The dragon claw pressed against Sakaski with an unstoppable momentum that was overwhelming. Yuelong, the spring and guard in Sakaski's hand seemed to turn into a crescent moon being held in his hand, and as he waved, a moonlight shadow appeared behind him. Peng the dragon claw collided with the famous sword, and both sides stared tightly at each other as they began to wrestle. The next second, both sides began a fierce battle, with flames overflowing and dragon claws shaking as if they were about to destroy sentient beings. In the blade light, there was a fierce killing intent hidden. Peng King Dong, the power of the two sides engaged in battle, rolled up layers of smoke, in which only two figures could be seen constantly engaged in battle. What a terrifying monster. This kind of strength doesn't seem like the same kind of creature as us. It's so scary. Is this a powerful force? The moves of both sides are simply chilling for me. Is this a battle or a fight? Chapter 9. Practical Operations. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ilya and Sakaski are both enjoying this battle, with equal strength on both sides, which allows them to unleash their full potential without worrying about hurting others. A smile involuntarily appears on the corners of their mouths. The sinful will be pierced by the fiercest spear in the deepest part of hell. The execution of sins. A pitch-black spear was composed of iron shavings drawn by Ilya's words and spirits from deep underground. Hot flames and fierce lightning surrounded the spear, and the pitch-black spear was faintly covered in red patterns. Small wind blades surrounded the peak of the spear. A pitch-black dragon claw grabbed the spear that judged sin, its tall body tense like a bowstring, and its solid muscles twinkled with the beauty of power, throwing it forcefully. Bayu the pitch-black spear, accompanied by blazing flames and raging lightning, rushed toward Sakaski like a fleeting meteor in the sky, and its flying blades were its pioneers. Crunching Sakaski's body was as tense as a rock, with one hand brushing over and holding the sword tightly. The blazing flames spread throughout the blade with Sakaski's movements, and Izumi Kajikatsu became a blazing sword. Flame whirled. The tip of the knife was in sharp opposition to the peak of the spear, surrounded by lightning and flames. The small blades of the wind fueled the fire. With Sakaski's powerful swing, the pitch-black spear shattered into countless fragments and scattered in all directions. The flames became a curtain of fire with the waving of the knife, and the tongue of fire licked Ilya's body, but Ilya waved her hand indifferently to extinguish the flames. Sakaski, it's truly you. Ilya's move is not bad. That's it, this is a move I've been thinking about for a long time. Then let me see your other moves. As you wish. There are 4 spirits in heaven. There is a green dragon in the east, which intimidates the world, accompanied by a deep dragon chant. A jade-like green dragon emerged in the east of Sakaski, with its winding body hovering in the sky, staring at Sakaski. There are white tigers in the west, killing all directions. A tiger howled like a collision of gold and iron, and a white tiger with white ribs and wings stood tall in the sky in the west. The killing that engulfed thousands of miles turned into a red mist surrounding the white tiger. In the south, there are vermilion sparrows, and the red fire burns to the sky. The resounding chirping of birds accompanied by the rising hot flames. A pair of red wings pierced through the flames, and a vermilion sparrow with golden stripes and flames entwined appeared. There is Xuanwu in the north, and all things are surrounded by water. The turtle chirped and the snake hissed at the same time, and a vast expanse of Zhe Kingdom emerged in the north. In Zhe Kingdom, a Xuanwu surrounded by the aura of pitch-black Taiyin guarded the center. The 4 spirits have opened up. Sakaski took on this move. Accompanied by Ilya's voice, the 4 divine beasts headed toward Sakaski in the middle at an extremely fast speed. How could I make you compete, Ilya? The blade flowed with flames, trembling gently as if breathing. Red Dog held the scabbard with his left hand and inserted the blade into it with his right hand. His legs sank slightly, and in an instant, an incredibly dazzling blade light appeared, with absolute slaughter in this breathtaking blade light. Washing away sins, the collision between the 4 spirits and the blade light converged into a white light, which then erupted instantly, and the aftermath of the mountain tsunami surged in all directions. Just kidding, is this the gap between us? The Navy in an elite training camp looked somewhat dazed at the scene in front of them. This kind of power is so terrifying. Polisorino slowly put on his glasses as if to prevent the dazzling light from blinding his eyes. This makes my blood boil. Costa clenched his fists tightly, his burly body trembling slightly due to the desire to fight. This is the goal I want to pursue. The Navy's eyes, adorned with golden rims and a scholarly demeanor, were filled with fanaticism. How terrifying. How terrifying the strength of General Zifa should be. Mike easily withstood the aftermath in front of him with great emotion. Not bad, two stinky kids. Zifa held his chest in both hands and nodded slightly, but the smile on the corner of his mouth could not conceal the fact that he was very satisfied. It's just a monster. In just 3 months, you can proficiently master the Navy's 6 styles. A naval colonel behind him couldn't help but speak as he watched the battle scene before him. Yes, it's a monster-like talent. A naval colonel wearing a righteous coat and a long beard beside him agreed. The two of them burst out laughing in the field, their fierce battle and bold and cheerful laughter outlining their friendship. Are you laughing in such a fierce battle? The Navy in a training camp is confused. This is the boldness of a man on the sea. Mike put his hands in his pockets and smiled as he looked ahead. This battle has made both of them feel happy, right? A naval lieutenant colonel spoke to another lieutenant colonel beside him. I guess so, after all, their experiences are somewhat similar. The major next to him spoke up about Ilya and Sikorsky's childhood experiences. What a tragic experience. The Navy lieutenant colonel's weathered tone revealed his regret. Ilya, you're done with it. Sikorsky climbed onto the moon cloth and soared into the sky. The sun behind him, emitting endless light, couldn't even move his eyes away from him. His whole body was like a compressed spring, and his muscles tightened as he swung a knife that absorbed all the light. Meteorite sun, light and shadow disappeared under this knife, only to see it fall into the mortal world with the will to destroy everything, like a scorching sun on the sky that extinguishes. Come on, Sikorsky, this is my latest move. Ilya placed her right fist between her waist and abdomen, holding her breath and sinking her waist. The scorching flames, aided by the howling wind, formed a fire dragon roll that was capable of destroying everything around her. The thunderous roar was deafening, and lightning condensed into physical objects on her fingertips. Dark blue mysterious patterns appeared on her pitch-black dragon claws, slowly disappearing into place in an instant. Her fist clashed with Sikorsky's blade. I have a punch that can shatter mountains, shatter the earth, sever the sea, shatter the sky, and eliminate evil. Listen to the dragon's chant. The resounding dragon chant rang out instantly at the moment Ilya made her move. Ping! A strong shockwave spread outwards between Ilya and Sikorsky. Surrounding naval training camps, the Navy struggled to resist the strong airflow caused by the collision between the two sides, including flames, lightning, and slashes. What a nonsense! Ping Zifa shook his head, and his body appeared in front of all the naval training camp trainees. With a punch, the shockwave, which was as fierce as a sandstorm, was instantly destroyed by a stronger force. Around them, naval lieutenants, colonels, and colonels used various methods such as chopping, punching, and kicking to eliminate the impact of shock waves on the students. Author's words. Chapter 10. The First Battle of Two People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ilya and Sikorsky stopped fighting, understanding that the two would only become increasingly fierce as the battle continued, which was not allowed at the Marinfando naval base. Let's call it a day, Sikorsky. Ilya has transformed from a burly and ferocious dragon-like form back to her robust physique of 3.5 meters tall. Okay. Sokka's nodded in agreement. This is not an uninhabited island where they can let go of the battle. This battle can only end here. It is also a display of their own talents. Only with strong talents can they be valued, and it will be easier to achieve their goals in the future. The behavior of the people around him and the smile on Zifa's lips now represent Zifa's recognition of their talent. This means that in the future, Zifa will allocate more time to teach them combat skills. Don't underestimate these skills. They are the result of a great general battling countless fierce enemies, which will lead them to take many detours. Even though Ilya has Nedhogg's countless years of combat skills, he clearly appears somewhat powerless in the face of various strange fruits. Only after enough battles can these skills and experiences be integrated by him, and I can fully unleash Nedhogg's combat skills. Sakaski, on the other hand, needs these combat skills and experiences even more to help him grow. After all, he does not have thousands of years of combat experience as an old monster. Although he has enough talent, there are many seas where he dies without fulfilling his monster-like talents. The next group, Elsko vs. Mike. A naval lieutenant shouted loudly while holding a list. Zifa nodded in satisfaction as he watched Ilya and Sakaski stop. According to the scale of the battle just now, even if Ilya and Sakaski keep fighting, Zifa will force them to stop. After all, this is just a battle test, not a life and death battle like the Golden Lion attacking Marinfando. Of course, we need to consider everything around us. This is where Zifa is satisfied because they understand the importance of moderation, and Zifa understands that they are showcasing their talents and values to gain greater support. Zifa is not averse to such behavior. At the age of 28, Zifa, who was a corporal, was able to leap from a corporal to a naval general in just 10 years. It was through his talent that he demonstrated that he received key training efforts from the Navy, making him the youngest naval general. Ilya, Sakaski, your talents are very good. Now you can learn about armed color dominance and seeing color dominance. Ilya, you should have awakened your aura of seeing and hearing, right? Zifa spoke in a positive tone. Ilya nodded and spoke candidly. That's right, I didn't expect to keep it from Teacher Zifa. Sakaski was somewhat surprised as he stared at Ilya, but when he remembered her experience, he understood. After all, he had also awakened his dominance. There are many who are not taught to awaken their own sense of dominance, just a few. Even under extreme stimulation, they may awaken their dominance, but they may not be well controlled. Sakaski, have you awakened your armed color dominance? Zifa stared at Sakaski and said with certainty. Sakas nodded and accepted what Zifa had said. Ilya was somewhat surprised in her heart. He is truly the strongest general in the history of the Navy. Thinking about Sakaski's monster-like physique and past experiences, as well as his rock-solid will, Ilya understood why Sakaski could awaken his armed dominance. This is what Sakaski sacrificed his life for. Perhaps compared to that happy family, he would choose not to awaken his armed dominance and choose to keep the family living a happy and fulfilling life. Zifa nodded. Sometimes during the battle, they unintentionally used their dominance without realizing it, but Zifa noticed it. Since you have awakened your domineering spirit, I won't teach you the simplest way. Your physique, willpower, and physical skills have all reached the standard, and what you lack is only the cultivation method of domineering spirit. Hegemony is a power hidden within the human body. You all understand the concepts of seeing, hearing, and armed colors. So what you need is a systematic way to guide and master this power. The specific method is Pushi. A jet black armed color shimmered with a hard steel-like luster attached to Ilya's strong arms, which appeared even more domineering under the attachment of the armed color. Sakaski closed his eyes tightly and calmly in the Major's attack, but was not touched at all. Despite the Major's efforts to attack, he remained unscathed. Not bad, you have all mastered the dual color dominance proficiently. Now, according to your level of dominance, regular training is not as effective as fighting, so prepare for practical combat and be mentally prepared. This is facing the truly vicious pirates. Zifa nodded. Ilya and Sakaski, as well as Costa and Porcelino, had the fastest learning speed among all naval training camps. At the same time, Ilya and Sakaski's dual-color dominance was the best used in combat. Costa, on the other hand, maximized the use of his armed aura. Sakaski and Ilya both had a clear gap with him, and Zifa was slightly surprised by Costa's armed aura. Porcelino, on the other hand, is known for his outstanding aura and slightly weaker armed aura. He has also clashed several times with General Zifa due to issues with his health and physical condition. Porcelino believed that with his monster-like physique and fruit ability, he could fight and leave whenever he wanted, and no one could stop him. Therefore, he regarded demon fruit ability as the most important factor in his combat flow, placing more emphasis on fruit than physique. Zifa rose to the position of a general with a strong physique and domineering aura, naturally believing that physique is more important. Although fruits are important, the focus should be divided in half between the center of gravity and physique, rather than focusing on one aspect. Obviously, Zifa understands how much advantage a powerful demonic fruit can bring, but it can also bring fatal weaknesses, as sea tower stones and seawater are factors that cannot be completely overcome. If brought with high purity sea tower stones, it will still affect the strength of the capable person. After all, losing the fruit can only rely on one's own physique. The ideological dispute between both sides has led to a worsening relationship, with each side sticking to their own opinions. Ilya plans to take advantage of this opportunity to engage in practical combat and have a good conversation with Porcellino, causing his center of gravity to shift slightly towards his body. This can be considered a regret for Teacher Zifa, as Teacher Zifa has taught Ilya a lot. At the same time, Porcellino is also worth winning over in Ilya's plan. However, every time Ilya has such intentions in the naval training camp, Porcellino will smoothly avoid them. This time, Ilya needs to determine how to face Porcellino in the future.